Connection with higher self?
Higher self.
Higher self.
Higher
Okay.
self. We have different parameter. Our aura, our flow on the chakra.
Yes. Chakras.
We have
Good.
10 chakra,
Yes.
7 chakra
Very good.
physical body, and 3 chakra on our head.
But where did you learn about chakras? This is
Three
not
chakra
normal.
have.
This is not normal scientific knowledge.
Yes, 1 chakra moon, solar, and planetary chakra. For example, to say about aura, they say we see our soul.
Yes,
Very interesting.
I see. But you do not use them to communicate. The government is using your work or no?
With government we have very difficult communication because official science
Yes,
not help me.
I see. This is
In
what I
fact,
thought.
I am work myself.
Independent.
Independent. Oh, it's independent.
I see.
Not
officially.
Not officially. Okay.
But I have very many articles, and one article in England, in
Okay.
English,
Good.
very many articles in Russian, and I have 2 books about this problem.
Very
One,
Okay. Thank you.
okay,
Yes.
and another article, it not published
Okay.
in this time. Maybe you may possibility to publish this article.
Okay.
Name in Russian «Российские дети Индиго». Children Indigo of Russia.
I see. Okay. Wonderful.
Okay.
We were just talking about how Boriska, how he looks when he was 7 and now he is actually 11 years old, and there was such a difference in his recall is not as accurate, not as deep. He's having trouble remembering things. He's more focused on growing up as an 11-year-old in society now, and he's quite grown up actually for 11 in many ways.
Yeah. The feeling I had, if you look at this picture of him here, with all the artist impressions done for the magazine, which is where it was published, I think, you can see the innocence of a 7-year-old when he first started talking about this stuff. And now he's 11. A lot of people have asked him all these questions. He's been surrounded by university professors and journalists, and it was a little bit like somebody who's told the same story so many times. Like, sometimes people ask me what it was like living in Africa when I was a child. And I remember the first time people were asking me this, I was interested in the question, and I'd get really animated when I was recalling living in West Africa when I was a little kid. And now when people ask me, it's just like, oh, I just lived in Africa, and you know, it's like if you tell something over and over again, it just becomes boring to tell it one more time. And this was the feeling that we got from him. And actually, he's just trying to be an 11-year-old, really. And this is the kind of thing that I've heard many times before, that you get a little kid who might remember details of their past lives when they're very young, and they're 4 and 5, and they start talking about strange things, you know, to their parents over dinner. And by the time they're 9, 10, 11, 12, they've just forgotten all about it because they've been swamped by all the stuff that's happening on planet Earth. And
For me, I saw a little boy who does remember things, but they're fleeting. They're not. They're like the fleeting kind of images from dreams, and those are very hard to put into words to the people around you. So I think that he remembers the images in his mind, but it's much more difficult now for him to verbalize. And he also seemed to be going through what every young child goes through right before puberty, which is, you know, a lot more self-consciousness among adults than probably he had when he was 7 and started talking to the reporters. I didn't get the impression he's been asked about this all that often, but I do think that he's very self-conscious now, because he's growing up, and he knew there was cameras, and the pressure of all the people and the situation seemed to be weighing on him in a way. And he may be going through some emotional traumas. He says, he doesn't really have any friends and so on. But he did seem to have recall of things. He talked nonchalantly about Earth changes starting in 2009 and of water that he saw coming. And he talked about war, and he also made a very big distinction between talking about bad things about people, that he really didn't want to say anything bad about the humans around him.
That was very striking, wasn't it?
Yeah, and yet he didn't even remember, his telepathic experience with his professor, in which he was completely tuned into what his professor had experienced on the train home one night. He said he's considered to be an unusual child by others. He's aware of this, and I think it's coloring his world, and maybe in not making life so easy for him. But he's precocious, he's charming, he's delightful, he's like a little imp. He has a lovely sense of humor, he's light. He's really brilliantly intelligent, and all of this will come across on the film, I have no doubt. And we have developed a relationship with him that hopefully will go on, and we will be able to. He says he's a writer. He likes to write on the internet, so we will see if there's proof of this, and we'll go from here. And hopefully, this is just the beginning. He's a fascinating little kid. His professor is doing some advanced work with indigo children in general, that his government is not fully behind, apparently. And he has a book that he'd like to get published. I mean, there were many wonderful things. His mother has telepathic gifts. She was completely in tune with him telepathically when he was younger. They could touch hands, and he could, in essence, show her things, take her to other planets, make things available to her in ways that she made her completely know that she had this very special child. So it's all very fascinating, and I think it was well worthwhile, and there's just more to come about this.
Yes, everything which you've said, which is absolutely right, but we need to put all that down in some kind of a narrative, because that's how it belongs. It's actually what it is. So historically, from what he has been on record as having said.
But just think of this will be, this is him at 11. If we even came back in 6 months, he may be in a completely different place.
Absolutely right.
Yes, and then if people, are not able to interview him for a few years and suddenly they come back, you'll get a whole nother viewpoint, and this will be part of that record. So it is important, and it does matter. A person's stumbling blocks, even a person that comes from another planet to this planet, does have forgetfulness after a while. Life is hard, especially in Russia. He lives in a one-room apartment, for God's sake. He has no real money to speak of.
And he has no
He's
father.
A special child on top of it.
And he has no...
His father is not around.
And his father is not around to recognize that he is who he is. Because his mother said that she thought that he had probably heard about him, which is incredible, which means that he must have been off the scene before he was 7, which probably means that he can barely remember it.
That's right.
And that's pretty tough. That's all pretty tough.
Yeah. Remember that this video we have shot will show a 11, 12-year-old indigo child in the throes of a life experience that other indigo children will be able to see,
Yes.
and who are going through the same thing, and will be able to identify immediately with him,
Yes.
visually, by his mannerisms, by his persona, by his intellect and the brightness in his eyes. All of that will come across.